Hi there, and good morning. I'm Chris Evers. This is Animal Embassy, and I'm here with my friend Sydney. Sydney is an eclectus parrot. We're doing a little bit of a test run. We're gearing up for online programming. I've done a couple so far, but I'm getting more and more requests from schools and families that are interested in connecting with Animal Embassy, and I'm ready. So I've got my second official program today. Last week we used Google Hangouts for our first, and it was with a group of 10 families in Old Greenwich. And this morning I'm going to be doing a Facebook Live for a group of preschool kids. What do you think about that, Sydney? Sydney is one of my many rescued and adopted animals. Sydney was living in a cage for most of the first 5 years of his life. He rarely got to come out. The family that owned him, they were too busy for him. The kids went to school, the parents went to work. When people came home, they were still too busy for Sydney. So even though they were there, they weren't there for him. When Sydney does this, I have kids that ask me, "Why is he eating you?" He's not eating me. For young kids, I have them think about it like holding their parent's hand. Why do you hold your parent's hand? Because you don't want them to go away. You want to hold on to them. You want to keep them close. Sydney wants me to stay. He wants to keep me close. So that was not aggressive right there. Obviously, with that beak, Sydney is capable of hurting me. Um, and if he gets grumpy, I have to be careful. He has moods just like we do. He's a very intelligent animal. So imagine what it was like for Sydney to be living in a cage for 5 years. He would scream when the family would come home, and they found it to be obnoxious. They found it to be annoying. Well, he just wanted attention. He was screaming for attention. Sydney, you're a good boy. So Sydney's my wingman today. I'm going to set him down, and I'm going to, if you will, you don't want to go back there, huh, boy? Step up, boy. Good boy. Come here. Step up. Good boy. So what I want to focus on today, other than Sydney and our mission, which is to rescue and adopt exotic animals and then provide educational programming, a big focus of our program is appreciating life and appreciating diversity. This is something that I can do for all ages, from little children to seniors. We work with all different audiences, and that was my goal when I created Animal Embassy. After many years of working in the nonprofit world, Darien Nature Center, Stanford Museum, Maritime Aquarium, Sound Waters, and other organizations as I was going through college, I decided to create Animal Embassy. I've been rescuing and adopting animals now for most of my life. My first animal was a Burmese python named Sydney. Many of you out there know Sydney. Sydney was with me for 18 years, and I adopted her when I was 17. So I've been doing this for a long time. And speaking of snakes, I wanted to share with you a snake this morning. For this test, I'm going to share with you a beautiful snake called the Sinaloan milk snake. But I always like to prepare people for the snake before it comes out. Even on Facebook here during a live session, an animal like this could really be alarming. I recall my sister Patrice when we were kids. If a snake was on television, she would literally run out of the room. So our phobias can be extreme. Unfortunately, sometimes these phobias they evolve over time. We say that we don't that we're nervous about something, then we might say that we're scared about something. If we're scared for long enough, we might say we don't like the thing that makes us afraid. That may then turn into I hate it. And that's what we're trying to help children to not do. Let's understand that our fear can keep us safe. Our fear can keep us alive. Hatred does not have that effect. So the animal that you're about to meet is called a Sinaloan milk snake. Before we see the snake, I think this will be surprising to some. This is the skeleton of a snake. Now, when I asked the question, and I should have done it with live audiences, which you are, but with live audiences in person, I ask, do snakes have bones, yes or no? And I get a show of hands. Half the people say yes, half the people say no. And then when I ask the third question, how many of you actually have no idea whether snakes have bones? Many of the hands go back up because a lot of people just don't understand. We learn that snakes are vertebrates, but then we forget that as a vertebrate, they would have to have a backbone. So these creatures are actually very fragile. I never heard anybody say that snakes are fragile when I was a child. I heard adults say that they don't like them. I heard adults say that they hate them. I heard and saw people do bad things, including killing snakes. When we decide we hate something, we don't want it around. I'm sure there's something that we all might say that about right now, and we have to work hard to defeat it. By practicing social distancing, by keeping each other safe, we can defeat our enemy. It's going to take a while, but we've got to do it. Snakes aren't our enemies. Snakes are our friends. This is what I want the children to understand. Snakes have a valuable role to play in the ecosystem. Snakes eat mice and rats. Mice and rats carry ticks and fleas can carry disease. So if snakes are eating mice and rats carry ticks and fleas can carry disease, we should actually be saying thank you to them because they're helping us so that we don't get sick. So let's love them for that. We don't have to want to get close to one. I'm cautious around wildlife. We all should be. There are venomous snakes in the world, but they don't want to hurt us. They have the ability to. Venom is an adaptation. Venom is not used because they want to kill. It's used so they can get their prey. It's also used so they can defend themselves from predators. So venomous snakes are not bad, but I often have children ask me, is that a bad snake or a good snake? Well, the question probably is that venomous or non-venomous, but they don't know that that's exactly what they're asking because that's not the way they've learned about snakes. They've learned that snakes are bad. They've learned that they're no good. They've learned that they're dangerous. They've learned that they're gross. They've learned that they're slimy. I want to give children the information and the knowledge so that they can appreciate all life. This is the skin of a reticulated python. In another session, we'll get to meet a beautiful reticulated python named Luna. Luna is a leucistic reticulated python. This is a reticulated python that would have its normal colors and patterns. And reticulated refers to the pattern that this animal has. My program today with my preschool is called Colors and Patterns of Nature. So reticulated is not a pattern that most of us are familiar with, although we've all seen it because this is largely used in the fashion industry. Fortunately for reticulated pythons, much of it now is being made as replica. This is the actual skin of a reticulated python, which would have been turned into pocketbooks, belts, wallets, boots, shoes. I'm happy that instead I can use this for an educational artifact and, in a sense, breathe life back into this animal through education. What a beautiful creature, and shouldn't that animal be wearing this skin? So with a little bit of knowledge and information now, I want to bring out the live snake. So snakes are reptiles. Reptiles have scales. Reptiles have survived on this planet for millions of years. This creature should be living in Sinaloa, Mexico. It's called a Sinaloan milk snake, and it is a replica of a coral, not a replica, sorry, it's a mimic of a coral snake. So she looks very much like a coral snake because mimics want to look like something that they're not. Now, why would this animal want to look like a venomous snake? Well, that's because predators naturally are afraid of venomous snakes. Many creatures, it seems, are naturally afraid of snakes, period. If you don't have a field guide, how do you know whether it's venomous or not? So one of the safe things, if you're going to be in nature, avoid snakes. Doesn't mean that you have to stay out of the forest or stay out of the field, but don't pick them up unless you know exactly what you're doing. But you know what? They don't want to be picked up anyway. So when I was a kid and I would bring kids out into the field to teach them about nature, I would love to catch animals. I would catch them. I'd show them to the kids. I would handle them safely, carefully, and then we would release them. But I didn't really need to catch them at all. I encourage kids to watch. Let's be passive observers of nature. Let's love it, but we can love it from a distance. We don't have to catch it. We don't have to own it. Let's let wild animals be wild. And I think part of that is let's not catch them. Let's watch them. And if you watch them, you can learn a lot. So now when I go out into the field, I take pictures. My camera is with me almost all the time so that I can take pictures of wildlife. I like to travel around the world so that I can go and see different animals in their natural habitat. I took this picture in India. I was riding on an elephant when I took this image. She opened up her mouth and showed us every single one of her pearly white teeth. That was to tell us to back off. She had two babies hiding in the bushes. This is the way I like to see wildlife, in the wild where it belongs. Wouldn't it be wonderful if this Sinaloan milk snake could be in Sinaloa, Mexico, where she belongs, doing what she should be doing? I like to say to kids that all animals have a job. As they get older, we call that a niche. We call that a niche. Some say tomato, some say tomato. Niche is the role, essentially the job, the function of that animal within its community. They have a community of their own, and we are a part of that community, and they are a part of our community. And this is a way that I've been teaching kids now for years, but I've been really focusing on that more recently. Let's make our community a better place. We can do that by appreciating life, by protecting nature, and nature is certainly a way that we all can get some respite, get some peace, get some sanity. Get out into nature. I really encourage you. Get in your backyard. Nature's everywhere, and spring is sprung. Get out into nature. Love life. You don't have to want to touch or hold something to love something. Snakes eat mice and rats. Mice and rats carry ticks and fleas. Ticks and fleas can carry disease. Let's appreciate that they do that for us, and let's see the beauty in this creature. If we get caught up in the fact that it's slimy, well, we're not going to see it for what it is. They aren't slimy. This creature has very smooth skin. It's shiny, but it isn't slimy. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I hope you've enjoyed this test. This was a test because I am now gearing up. All of my programs obviously were canceled, and that's the way I bring money into Animal Embassy so that I can keep the lights on, so to speak. And it's a lot of work. I've been having to care for the animals all by myself. For obvious reasons. Fortunately, I moved everything to my property. You are in with me the Animal Embassy building, which is right next to my house. So it's very convenient. I'm so happy that I was able to make that move when I did. I just moved everything over the last year, 2 years, I guess, into my own building. I'm really excited about that. I'm excited too that I've got the technology to be able to do this with you here. And I'll be improving that technology over the course of the coming weeks and the coming months. And I'm really excited that I now have the ability to provide programs in this way. I will be available to do private programs for families as well as school programs. And as I was doing this, I also thought about the seniors. I do programs at assisted living facilities. They're going to need something to take their minds off of this, just like everybody else does. Can't see my mom these days in person, except I go and visit her on the other side of her window. So these are the changes we got to make. These are the adaptations, guys. So adapt and thrive as much as we can in this current environment. Take care, guys. Go green, be clean, and hope to see you very soon. Thank you very much. I'd appreciate your feedback. Have a great day.